first of all, what's your opinion on
What's
Steph
my
Curry?
opinion on Steph Curry? I
Which
mean, he's a
how do
freak
like
of
how
nature.
do you how do you view Steph Curry?
How do I view Steph Curry?
Yeah.
I mean, the man, a freak of nature. That dude. I don't know, bro. He's like be hitting shots from every single corner of the court, bro.
So then, basically, the normal thing. He's the greatest shooter of all
Oh
time.
yeah, I
The
wouldn't say
normal.
he's my favorite shooter of all time, but definitely the greatest shooter of all time.
Would you consider Steph Curry the greatest point guard of all time?
See, for me, I don't know. Maybe just because of how many rings he has, and him being
Okay.
MVP twice.
Okay, well, I personally, my thing is, I stay away from the ring argument because it's flawed. Like Draymond Green has 4 rings, he has more rings than Kevin Durant, and he's not a better player than Kevin Durant. So,
I got you.
I try not to bring rings into my arguments.
All right, so I mean, how do you feel about him,
Well, I listen. In my opinion, Steph Curry is the greatest point guard of all time.
and why is that?
Okay, well, number one, in the '90s, the pace of the game was so much slower because the amount of threes that they took, like in the finals game, you had one game in the finals where the Celtics shot damn near 43s. I mean, there was some eras in like the '80s and the '90s where a team would shoot 43s in a season, and now you have these guys shooting 40, 50, 60, and that's because of Steph Curry. Steph Curry literally changed the way they play. We play basketball now.
Yeah.
You have uh, sixth graders pulling up from half court, turning around. The impact that Steph Curry has had on basketball is like it's crazy.
I'm trying to think of like any person that would be a better point guard than him. Now to think about it, bro.
Obviously, you have better true point guards. Like Chris Paul is a better true point guard than Steph Curry because CP3 is a fundamentally sound point guard. He's a one guard who's going to pass first, score second. Steph Curry is really more of a shooting guard because he shoot first, but he's still a really good playmaker. So the only person, in my opinion, that has the argument of being a better point guard than Steph Curry is Magic Johnson.
Because
When
he
you
had
look
like the
at
IQ of the game and everything like that.
you have to take into effect that Steph Curry changed the way that basketball is played.
Well,
Like
not only that,
there
but
was
Steph
like
Curry is a little more versatile than Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson has like the brains, but he's like, for
I,
instance, I don't remember ever seeing him shoot like crazy threes in a game.
listen, I got lie to you. I disagree. Magic Johnson is more versatile than Steph Curry, but now it goes into other things more physical. Like he's taller, he's bigger, he's faster. Where you got a guy that was that big, that fast. Even if you want to, you know, I got to do it.
Hmm.
LeBron is a natural small forward, but if you put him at point guard, he can still play it.
So you're
You can
saying
put
he's
him at
more
the,
versatile because he can play multiple different positions. When I
and
was
not just.
saying versatile, I didn't necessarily mean that. I meant in terms of what he can do as a point guard.
But I mean, you're not wrong. But versatility, as far as like in the subject that we're talking about, it is like I said, the ability to guard 1 through 5. That's the gist of it all. Which that's why I said that argument between Steph Curry and Magic Johnson is so hard. But that's where I wanted to bring in narratives, right? Because a lot of times with one of the knocks on Steph Curry is, well, Steph Curry had Kevin Durant. So, you know, you'll see people use this argument to slight Steph as why he can't be better than Magic Johnson, while not taking into effect that Magic Johnson played with some, like, he didn't play with no slouches. He had James Worthy, he had Michael Cooper, he had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Like, people must forget in the '70s, Kareem was the best player in the league by far, like by far.
Yeah.
So that's why I said how narratives can affect how you view people because I was telling you, man, this finals was so important for Steph Curry because now he's gotten rid of the narrative that he needed Kevin Durant to win one. I won one before you got here. I won one after you. To one of the most famous ones, a lot of people probably know about is Kobe and Shaq.
Kobe and Shaq.
Kobe and Shaq. Well, of course the narrative was that Kobe can't win without Shaq. That was the narrative. Shaq, like Kobe and Shaq couldn't get along. Kobe felt as if I'm just as good as you. I'm just as important as you. And the narrative after Shaq left was that Kobe couldn't win without Shaq. They had Smush
Hmm.
Parker, Kwame Brown, a bunch of trash, really. But that was the narrative that he couldn't win without Shaq. So what does Kobe do? Kobe works really, really hard, really hard,
And he wins without Shaq.
really hard, and he wins another championship. After Kobe wins a championship without Shaq, what does Kobe do? Kobe says it like he doesn't like just let you think, oh, maybe Kobe, he heard it. No, he lets you know, I got one. Kobe is quoted telling Shaq, I got one more than you. So we know this was important to Kobe that the narrative changed of being
It was so important to Kobe that he went out of his way to work so hard just to get one more
just to,
championship
just
than
to
Shaq,
change
just to
just
be able to brag in Shaq's face, basically.
but more about narrative. Like we see it a lot. The funniest one a lot of people will probably remember is the 2020 season, which is the season they got affected by COVID.
Yeah.
Well, in the beginning of the season, you had you had three things that happened. You had one, Anthony Davis signed with the Lakers.
Mhm.
Two, Kawhi Leonard signed with the Clippers. And three, Paul George also signed with the Clippers. So now you got three new superstars in LA. So what was the big thing of the 2020 season? The Battle of LA. Everyone anticipated, everyone anticipated that the Clippers were going to get to the Western Conference Finals. The Lakers would get there, and there they would clash, right? So we
Mhm.
would get this big battle of LA to see who would go to the finals in the West.
Mhm.
So as the season progresses, the Lakers look better. They have a better record. They appear to be playing better. But when they go against the Clippers, they lose, right?
Uh huh.
So the narrative at that point in time was, well, they can beat anybody but the Clippers, right? Time goes on. The Lakers are good. Lakers are the number one seed. Number one seed means you have the best record in your division.
Yeah.
Lakers, they have the number one seed the whole season. In March, the season has to be postponed because of COVID. So there's a COVID outbreak. The season stops. Everything stops. The season postponed. It's all pause. Now, before the season ended, the narrative was the Clippers are still better than the Lakers, and when they get to the playoffs, they'll prove it. That's the narrative. Long story short, the Lakers basically do what they're supposed to do. They get the number one seed in the bubble. The Clippers get the number two seed, I believe, either number two or number three. I believe it was the number two seed, and the playoffs are positioned to start. So in the 2020 season, the Lakers' first round opponent was the um, the Trailblazers. Now, one narrative that season around the Trailblazers, because anytime in the regular season, the Trailblazers would always beat the Lakers. We all know the Trailblazers got Damian Lillard. They're not a bad team. They were a good team, and the thought process was, how are the big Lakers going to guard like a small shooting team like the Blazers? The narrative was that the Blazers were going to just completely outshoot the Lakers. The Lakers can't shoot with them. They're going to get demolished. What happens? The Lakers jet them and sweep them. They beat them in five.
So
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 now,
all these teams that are supposedly gonna outshoot the Lakers end up getting beat by the Lakers, and people start switching up the story.
moral of the story is the Lakers go on and the Lakers win the championship. After everything's said and done, Patrick Beverly, you know who Patrick Beverly is,
Mhm.
he basically comes out and he makes a statement saying that the Clippers didn't want to be in the bubble. that like they were mentally exhausted. They didn't want to be there. They were mentally they were mentally out of it. They didn't want to be there.
Hmm.
Well, that would be funny coming from Patrick Beverly because Patrick Beverly was quoted saying, "Our time is now." Like you had your time. It's my turn now. My turn. My turn. So you went from telling Steph Curry it's my turn to, oh, we didn't even want to be there. Be
It's just
there.
excuses for losing.
It's how narratives change. How real is narrative in your head?
Yeah, narrative is basically it's only real until proven otherwise. It's all it is just a concept or belief that somebody has perceived due to something or due to just making it up. Like they could just make it up so other people could believe it, but the cause is somebody portraying or communicating that narrative in the first place.
Right. Right. And a lot of times narratives can be true. Like a
Of
lot of
course.
times narratives are true, but you can change your narrative. Like what Steph Curry did. Steph Curry before KD, he won. After KD, he won. The narrative that he needs Kevin Durant to win, you can't say it anymore.
Yeah,
So the
because he
best
proved
way
it
to deal
otherwise.
exactly. So more of the
I
story
think
is
narratives are needed in society, though. I think narratives are needed so that people can push to prove some shit wrong.
I
And
I, I, I think it depends on
I
the
mean, it does
context.
depend on the situation. Like, for instance, if it was like something racist or sexist or something, that would be a different story. But like for instance, like the narrative about how Steph Curry needs Kevin Durant or how Kobe needs Shaq, like that was just more like
Mhm.
fuel for them to drive to prove that shit wrong. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I mean, of course, it
Yeah.
depends on the situation, but with this specific situation that we are talking about right now, it definitely was sort of needed for their success to actually be proven to the world. It just
Yeah.
all depends on the situation. But don't be starting narratives if they're not true. I just want to thank everybody for coming in to this, our first podcast video. It didn't go as planned in the beginning. Of course, we wanted to do a live stream in the beginning, but it turned into a video due to YouTube policy. But that's okay because our next one we will be live streaming and it will be our first stream. As much as we can come up with this, we also need y'all to help us out too. We need y'all to, you know, research yourselves, also hit up your friends to spread the word because they can also speak their mind on this platform with us. I just want to thank all of y'all for coming in, staying in the audience and listening, or like for instance Lincoln when he came in earlier and said what's up and was supporting. Like, we appreciate all of y'all for this first one, and we'll
Facts.
definitely be planning our next podcast when we live stream on YouTube. But our time has ran out, so thank you everybody, and we'll see y'all another time. I appreciate it.